Welcome back to another episode of the Brewery Explorers Podcast. My name is Noah Jones, and I'm joined, as always, by my extra thirsty friends, Eric Burgasser and Blake Longfellow. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. Beer tastes good after a long Monday.
Oh yeah? Long Monday, huh? What happened?
Just late trucks come in where I work in the factory, so I had to stay over a little bit so the beer just tastes a little bit better.
Gotcha. And Eric, my guy, you've been going to music shows seemingly left and right.
Yeah, my one complaint though is the beer selection at these shows. They need better vendors, and I went to Bogart's. I had, what was it, Miller Lite, and then I went to the Vogue in Indianapolis, and they had a craft seasonal on the menu, and I said, "Oh, I'll check out whatever that is." And they're like, "Oh, we're out of that. We don't have that." So I had to deal with the Coors Light there. So
yeah, that's
feeling a little
no
deprived
good.
at these music venues.
They should really get a hold of Bircus Brewing. He's going to be our guest today. Paul, how are you today?
Wonderful. You know, Monday is my day off. We had shows all weekend here, so and we've got 14 beers that we make here on premises. So it's a big top here at the the Bircus is the Flemish pronunciation. It sure as hell looks like Bircus. So as a policy, we don't correct people. But
I hate pronouncing names wrong. How do you pronounce it?
Well, my buddy in Belgium, he hates the government. He makes beer to fund his circus. The beer is called Bircus, is the Flemish pronunciation, but it sure looks like Bircus. So as long as we're talking about it, we don't correct people.
It's funny because your website not exclusively, but your website actually states in pretty bold letters that the Flemish pronunciation is Bircus, but I decided to be American. So again, I apologize. Going forward, we'll really make a try to call it the Flemish way.
Now, again, I've been corrected many times in my life. So as a policy, we don't correct. We offer some ideas, but again, it's all. We are not in Flanders. We are not in Ghent.
That's very Chris Martin of you to offer up an idea instead of like telling the truth. There's a video of who was that old talk show host, Eric. He used to go around doing carpool karaoke.
Oh, James.
Yeah,
Corbin.
James Corbin had Chris Martin in his car for one of those carpool karaoke's, and James Corbin has a singing background, and so he's just singing some Coldplay song, and all of a sudden Chris Martin is like, "It's actually this," and James is like, "Oh, I didn't know I had been mispronouncing or I had missinging the song." He goes, "Well, you're not missinging it. It's art. It can be whatever you want." And I always thought that was a silly thing. So anyway, back to you, Paul. I'm really excited to speak to you. According to your website, you have worked as a clown for the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, which is amazing.
Right.
I mean, I will admit right now that I know very little about circuses, but it's my understanding that Barnum and Bailey are like it, right? When it comes to circuses, like they're the biggest deal.
Well, I dropped out. Well, I dropped out of college. I was studying theater, and I dropped out to join the circus. And a lot of people weren't too happy, But I did ask my girl to marry me before I did that. So that's my unsolicited romantic advice, people. If you're going to do something bold, like drop out of college and join the circus, and you're with some hot lady, I just kind of, or gent, it doesn't matter. All loving is good loving under the big top. But if you're going to make a bold move like this, what you got to do is like figure it out. So I ran away with the circus, and as you can see, the circus business, it's really concessions. It's cotton candy, okay? It's popcorn, it's snow cones, and that's really kind of how I look at the beer side of our business. Like, we sold other people's beer starting in 2012, and we had like Rivertown, Jenicky, we had Barbarossa, Christian Orline's Barbarossa, PBR, Hootie Amber, Wessex IPA, Mount Carmel Nut Brown Ale. So this was my curated. So say you came to see a show with us, like in 2012, we had no Bud Light, no Miller Light, no Coors Light, and people would complain about that. But we had like the PBR Tall Boy, 24 ounces for $5. So that was a hell of a deal. I was a PBR guy back then. But it's, if you don't have a concessions, you don't make any money. So this theater we bought in 2009, Then we started doing events in 2012, selling other people's beer. After you pay for insurance and pay the staff and buy the beer from a distributor, there's really very little margin there. But without beer, you can't do an event. So, it's been a long process. Making our own beer is been a lot of fun. Inspired by my friends overseas and how I met them. Just like how when I left the circus, I would do tricks like balance a big, chair on my chin. So this is a bar stool. Okay. See? Am I in frame? Can you see that?
You're in frame,
all right,
but you're
so,
making me really nervous.
Oh, no. Good. Like in this,
No, it's
we say there are no accidents, there are consequences. Okay. So, that's nervous is fine.
I like that. that. So talk to us a little bit about the Bircus brewing history. I mean, you sent us this website, which was very long. You've been in action for, I think, close to a decade. It includes Jerry Springer, issues with the Ludlow Police Department. Very interesting. Take us down memory lane here.
Well, in 2009, let's just say there was not a lot going on anywhere in the world. Like if you had initials, you were getting bailed out. AIG bailed out. PNC bailed out. GM bailed out. Like this was the end of the world. So for me, it was a great time to buy an empty movie theater in Ludlow for a song. It was like $50,000. We paid cash for it so that we could do things. Now it had a bunch of mold and lead-based paint, which for me is like value. Like I see a great value there. Because I can remediate that and I'm not afraid of it. But, so I had great relationships at the beginning because there was a volunteer fire department and they did all the breaching walls, pulling ceilings, search and rescue. They saved me a fortune getting this place open. The city gave me a beer license, because there really was not a lot going on in town. They also gave me a building for $1 and were like, hey, you're doing a lot. Why don't we get this for you? We'll make a circus school. And so I'm a dummy. Or I'll say this. I'm an experiential learner. So there's a lot of ways to pay tuition. So, but we've been in Ludlow for 15 years and I've hit a lot of obstacles, but instead of spending energy fighting City Hall, which is impossible, you cannot fight City Hall. They have unlimited resources. You have to get creative. So we crowdfunded the Bircus Brewing Company because we were competing for a piece of property. And of course they won. So what do? We registered with the Security and Exchange Commission that there's a 86-page document that says, don't invest in this clown. He has never made beer. He has no idea what he's doing. He has a penchant for lawsuits and he causes trouble. So there's 86 pages of this, but somehow people invested and we made beer and we've been making beer and really making community impact is really the biggest thing that we're going for. One for all is our slogan, is our motto. And that's how we operate.
How do you go about finding investors? If you're really doing community impact, are you doing things outside of just your tap room walls? Are you going out and seeking funding, or are you just hoping that people will sort of talk about you enough to get those investments?
No, at the time, hopefully my reception is here, but at the time, this building, it had there was no, let me see, maybe I can show it to your people here. This was the front of the building right there. That was the front of the building when we bought it. And after, working hard, getting it on the state historic registry, the federal historic registry, doing a lot of really bold things, this is what it looks like today. It's got the marquee on the front,
Very cool.
I don't want to get in the middle of traffic,
cool.
but whoa, all right, here's our traffic. So all these eyeballs every day, they come past this thing.
Gotcha.
So that was a big mold because I got $100,000 in federal historic tax credits to fix this building up, and I got a $60,000 state tax credit. And I just walked people through this place and kept giving them tours and started doing shows. So this is the place now. We have a giant empty movie theater. We painted a pickleball court in the floor when the pandemic hit, which was crazy. We were the only indoor pickleball court. And in 2020, when the world was closed, we operated at 20% capacity because that was what the government said we could do. So for us, that was 60 people,
Oh, wow.
And 60 people, so that's a lot of other breweries would be worried about it. But I was like, let's do it. So we painted a pickleball court. I opened up league play, and everyone's like, "Do you have to wear masks?" I'm like, "I don't know. Consult the International Pickleball Alliance." Like, I have no idea. Like, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. You know, if you don't want to wear a mask, it's a pickleball. I don't know. That's not my job to. But the very first day of league play, this guy got really angry and he broke his paddle in half. He had like a little John McEnroe moment. And he
Okay.
smashed his paddle over his knee.
Nice.
And I kicked him out. I said, "My friend, there's no time. There's no energy for this. Okay, it's pickleball." So that's honestly, that's how I did it. You know, I walked people through this building. I shared with them a vision of, you know, being productive with our time and energy. And a lot of my investors, they did not want to come and play pickleball, and they did not have to. You know, I mean, there's a group, the KGB. This is the Kentucky Guild of Brewers. Okay, like the Russian influence is everywhere. Okay, so the KGB got involved in the pandemic because you could get more COVID after 8 o'clock, or sometimes after 9 o'clock, you could get more COVID. I don't know if you knew this, but
I was not aware of
everything
that.
had to shut down.
The doctors
Everything
in
had
my
to shut
family
down.
never
Like,
said that.
well, the state, we had to shut down everything at 8 o'clock, and then it got moved to 9 o'clock and 20% capacity.
Oh, I remember that.
So, but here's a little loophole. If you had a private event, you could operate with your current license. So I have a 1 a.m. alcohol license to sell bourbon and wine and beer until 1 a.m., but it's only for private parties. So at 8:45 at night, I'd walk around with a big thing of popcorn, and I'd invite everybody to the Paulie the Clown after party. And if you wanted to be invited, it was $1 admission, and it was a bag of popcorn. It would be rung up on your tab as $1, but the doors were being locked. No one else was allowed to come because they weren't here before the curfew. So we did that for a while, and it was great until I got a message from the KGB, a very nice reminder to stop doing that or I was going to lose my license. So guess what? We stopped doing it. But it was fun because we were just pushing. Because if you were going to get COVID, don't go out, you know? Like, I've stepped in a lot of elephant poop when I was the Ringling Brothers. A tiger pissed all over me. Like, my immunity is different than your immunity because I was in the circus, you know?
Wow. Well, when they talk about being creative to stay alive, I think that you've topped every single story that I've heard up until today.
At the end of the world, there will be clowns and cockroaches. We were here at the beginning of time, and we will be here at the end, as far as I'm concerned, you know?
Yeah, seems that way.
So it's still crazy. That was still like 4 years ago. It felt like it was just like last year. It's
Right.
nuts.
It does feel, I mean, it really, how did it impact you all? Was your work significantly impacted? Did you drink a whole lot more craft beer then than you are now? What happened with you all?
I definitely drank more, but I was a what was it called, like a employee that was important, so I never missed a day of work through the whole pandemic. I mean, we had to do like 6 feet apart from each other and wear masks, but because I work for Crown Packaging that does Honda parts, we were considered essential because those parts could go to cars that people could got sick and needed to go to hospital or something like that. So they considered us very important line of work. So
Absolutely, it was industrial. You know, like we needed, and that was awesome about beer. It was manufacturing, so we ended up bringing in a mobile canning group. Ironheart Canning came in and canned. We had 30 barrels of beer just sitting in tanks, and we didn't make any money doing that, but it got all of our beer out of our tanks onto the shelves at Jungle Gyms over in Ohio. Most of my investors are in Ohio versus Kentucky, and they were really proud. You know, it's crazy. I mean, our distributor didn't survive the pandemic, so now we have no distribution in Ohio, and like I'm in a bad lease to own. Like I'm paying for kegs that I'm leasing to own that are all over Ohio. That are hopefully some home brewers using them to make some stuff, or somebody made a grill out of it, or hopefully people are doing something productive with these kegs. But what can you do?
Yeah. So talk to us about 2012. What happened there that allowed you to really start getting your crowdfunding?
Well, it took a long time. I wasn't able to crowdfund until 2016. So I started the paperwork because we were the first people to do it. You know, in 2015, we developed the brand. You know, we made our beers. We had a logo. I applied to the government for the permission to raise money this way, but because it was so new, I got Indiana to like agree to it. and I only have I've got 330 plus investors. 2 of them are from Indiana, but it was like, I was like just trying to push the like, hey, how pro business are you, Indiana or Kentucky or Ohio? This is a business. I need someone to look at this thing and give us the green light, because once I get Indiana, then we're going to get Kentucky, and then we're going to get Ohio. So, again, it took a long time. I applied to Kentucky for this angel investor tax credit, which was a 40% tax credit. So if someone invested $10,000, they would get a $4,000 tax credit guaranteed, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I was denied 3 times. I was, they're like, no, it's not going to work. And I was like, well, there's another major brewery right in Covington. They secured this tax credit. Why can I not get this tax credit? Then I applied again, and the answer was no. And then I applied again. The answer was no. So, but eventually they said yes, because, you just have to keep showing up. Like, that's my thing. Like, a clown falls down. What's funny is watching a clown get up again. And that's every Simpson episode. That's every Muppet Show. That's every Charlie Chaplin. That's every Buster Keaton. So, like, it's a cycle. So eventually we started raising the dollars. And then we opened up a small little tap room where we had 25 seats. And then it took about a year to fight through minutia to do that. It was all this government, hey, you can't do that. I'm like, you're wrong. Like, the federal government says we could do it, and you're just wrong. But it took like 9 months of me just smiling and showing up and telling them they're wrong over and over again, that that we got open. And then we crowdfund more money. We raised our full $500,000. And then all of a sudden we had to rewire our brewing tanks and the stainless steel conduit, even though I had pictures of every other brewery in town with the plastic. It's just, whoever they are, will keep throwing up obstacles that are like, you can't do this and you can't do that. I'm like, sure. Like, you can't do it, but we can. Like, that's the ethos of the circus, like, you can't get in a cage with lions, you can't drive a car with 16 people in it. Well, I drove the clown car with 16 people in it, so that's how I kind of look at things.
Gotcha. So you became the first crowd-funded brewery, correct?
Yes.
And then since then, other people that we were talking about offline have sort of followed that idea, right? How's that?
There are hundreds of them. Okay, I mean, and I've been in touch with some of them, and really, the structure of how to do these things can be challenging. Like, a lot of breweries raised money from their community, and they agreed to give them 10% of revenue until they double their money or something like that. That is a really tough. That's tough to deliver, because the margins are, just don't work. Like, the can costs more than the liquid. Like, the game of a beer is hard. So we were the first. We hit some other obstacles. The city coming out of the pandemic, we built our pizza oven. I had a friend from Italy. He was the head chef of the JW Marriott in Venice. So he came over, and I was like, Michael, let's make some pizza in Ludlow. He's like, man, I made lasagna for Pavarotti. I'm not going to make pizza in Ludlow. Who do you think you are? I'm like, man, if the world doesn't open, please come to Ludlow and make pizza. The world never opened. He came to Ludlow. We made pizza. Everything was cool until the powers that be decided they didn't like our oven. So there were a lot of headaches involved with that, but we solved it because I crowdfunded my second tranche. I raised another $250,000 by working with a Cincinnati-based group called the Wonder Fund, who is a really amazing group of people to work with. So we raised $250,000, and we opened up a second location in Covington, right next door, the next town over. And it had an oven already in there. And we found a partner, North-South Baking Company. Again, this was a great exercise in learning. Okay, like I lost my shirt. Like, I signed a terrible lease, $13,000.
I love North South.
$13,000 in elevator repairs. The amount of pizza and beer you have to sell to pay for $13,000 in elevator. I won't lease anything again. But again, right. You learn. You could get an MBA at Xavier or at Wharton, or you could rent a business in Covington for 2 years. Like, there's a lot of ways to learn.
So what's the difference between how you crowdfund and investors? Is there a big difference in the two?
No, they all are investors. They all are equity investors. They all own So we raised $500,000 for a third of the Bircus Brewing Company. Like if you are the three sharks from like Shark Tank, I pitched everybody. I said, I got an idea. It's worth $1.5 million. It's a circus brewery, and we're going to make it happen. And I need $500,000 for a third of my company. And 127 people said, sounds good. I own a third of your company. Here's $500,000. So then after we were doing it a little while, like when we had fixed the building and we did the historic tax credits, then I said, we're going to do this all over America, maybe all over the world. Now the idea is worth $15 million. And let's go. Let's get some more people invested. So then we got 200 plus more people got invested at that point. So now I own just over 60% of this amazing entity, the Bircus Brewing Company, that's been selling beer for 12 years. And we have another building that's down the street in Ludlow, and we're going to go from 700 square feet of brewing capacity to like 11,000 square feet. So it's fun. We got a cider and a wine license. So we're ready to really turn it up. And I got that building on the National Historic Registry. So I have like over $1 million in state and federal tax credits to fix up another building. And that's what I think we are really great at, is building community, using historic tax credits and crowdfunding to like make something happen, because often we're told, no, that's not going to work. And we just kind of keep smiling, throwing parties, applying for the asymmetrical development. Like when the government says, we'll give you 20% of the cost to fix this building, you just have to get the building fixed. For me, that's awesome. Right. Nobody else is paying 20%, So like that's a neat way to be able to say, hey, we did it with this dumpy theater. Now we're going to do it with this big blue building. And I don't know if you know that group, McMinimans. It's a brewing outfit that's way out in Portland. That's kind of what they're known for. They buy these historical buildings. They use historical tax credits, and they put little breweries in them. And they're all over kind of the Portland area. So I'm just trying to take the greatest hits. Like it worked over there, and maybe it will work here.
Well, you were just talking about it, but tell us a little bit more about this big blue expansion.
Well, it's got an incredible view of downtown Cincinnati, which is awesome.
That ought to pay the bills.
Well, if we can get it zoned correctly, right? Like, if I need, according to the powers that be, I need like 250 parking spaces for me to be able to do that. Gotcha. And that's a strange barrier to jump, or a firing hoop to jump through, because that's more parking than the city of Ludlow currently has. But, I just have to wait for the time. That's okay, like you can't argue. You can't argue with these people. But the thing that's cool is, for me, there's three parts of the circus. There's the circus draw. That's me bouncing something on my chin, There's the concessions, the popcorn, the beer, But you need the big top. So the big top really is the big blue building. And that's really where we're going to frame this up now, is every city has a Ludlow. In every Ludlow, there's a movie theater or an industrial building people have no idea what to do with. Not that we've cracked the code, but we're kind of taking the greatest hits from this. So it's really leveraging the right relationships with the right banker and the right investor who needs these tax credits. And we did it with the Ludlow Theater. It took 7 years to get it accomplished here. So I'm hoping we can get it down there in 18 to 24 months and then really prove that out, because that's our value add. It's not like a convention center. Like at Bogart's, let's say, you're talking about Bogart's, or we'll say any music venue. By the time they pay for the band and they have to buy other people's beer, there's not a lot of margin there. But if a venue can make money on the tickets, or the tickets can pay the artist, that's how I hustle my thing. The artist gets the door. We do a split, help pay for the circus. We get 100% of concessions, which is the beer, and everybody wins. So that is a model of how we're part circus, part brewery, really part real estate play. So Big Blue, I won't worry about making circus happen there, because it has an incredible view of downtown. And I did not know what I was doing when I got this building on the historic registry, but now I'm learning.
It seems like throughout this process and what we're hearing from you, that you guys have gone against the grain. You've stuck it to the man many times. So what has been your favorite moment of being the rebellious brewery you are? If that term
works. It's really my team. Okay. Like I'm a lot. Okay. I'm a lot. And my team is incredibly patient with me, and we're persistent. We just keep showing up. Okay. But at the grand opening of the theater, after it took all this to like the local jurisdiction didn't show up, so I went to Facebook Live and did my inspection live, and it was awesome because we forced them to come back. Like that's the bleach and sunshine technique. Like I just went live, and we ended up getting open. We passed our electrical, we passed our plumbing, we passed our life safety, we passed everything else. The locals wouldn't open us until we went live on Facebook, and they showed up, and we got passed. All right. Well, this is the fire department, and I have like a codependent relationship with these people. Like it's not, they did my demolition, they're in charge of passing. Well, it's the opening, and I blow a big giant ball of fire. We have all the people across the street. The news is here. My friends at Second Sight Spirits, who are incredible distillers, they used to work with Cirque du Soleil. So if you ever touched on distilling and you want some other circus angles, these guys are amazing. They, for the opening for them, they put flash paper behind a ribbon, and I blew a big giant ball of fire to cut their ribbon. So that was kind of like my pilot to see if it would work. So it's Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the biggest party day of the year. We have hundreds of people outside. I'm getting ready to blow a big ball of fire. There's these guys with confetti cannons behind me. I told my son and daughter who were holding the ribbon, they're holding the confetti cannons. They had to stand behind me. They didn't listen. I had a big gulp of the flame, the Coleman lantern fuel to blow the big ball of fire. So I can't tell them to get back. I blow this big giant ball of fire. The ribbon tears in half, and it goes and it catches my son's pants on fire. Okay, so he's in this like Adidas tracksuit. It's like so highly flammable, and the ribbon just goes down, catches his pants on fire. Oh my God. Sean, my brewer at the time, my founding brewer, he just takes his rubber boots and just like puts it out. But I mean, you can't make this stuff up, like you can't make this stuff up. And then Lucas, he's at school, he's up at St. Agnes in Fort Wright, like, well, how was your break? How was your Thanksgiving? Oh, he had a little list. Oh, it was so much fun. My dad, we opened up our new brewery, and he set my pants on fire. Yeah, I was literally on fire. And I'm just like, shut up. So, like, that is terrible. That's awesome. But like we said, in the circus, there are no accidents, there are consequences. And thank God that I have an incredible group of people around me who will step up and deliver and literally put out the fires,
Yeah, totally. In that same sort of vein,
Great story.
It's a great story for sure. In that same sort of vein, what's the best advice that you've ever gotten?
I had an incredible art teacher, like in high school. I mean, I went to Covington Catholic, which is it's an institution here in Northern Kentucky that has, let's just say, many, many connections. Like, I would love to share this with your podcast because I'm on a kind of a personal mission. The lawyer who represented Donald Trump in the very first impeachment trial graduated from Covington Catholic in 1984. Okay, so like this mafia exists in a way that's really pretty exciting. But my art teacher really just pushed this idea of creativity, and finding, I'm a work study kid. So every day after school, I worked for 2 hours to pay my tuition. So I got to work for my education, and I saw kids who daddies bought them a lot of cars, and my parents never bought me a car, So when I'm hiring people, the first question is, who pays your cell phone bill? Like, if you pay your own cell phone bill, we might be able to work together, like, how are you with a mop and a broom? Like, if you're too good to mop and broom and somebody else pays your, it's probably not going to work in this big top, So, but this concept of Nelson Mandela, he said he never loses. He wins or he learns, and this is where I'm, I could have lost plenty. I think people could look at my my P&L statement or my balance sheet, and they could say, well, you're not winning here. I'm like, yes, but you're right in your world. But in my world, I'm right. Like, our balance sheet looks fantastic. We have 30,000 square feet in Ludlow. We've hosted artists from 45 different countries. We are a very unique brewery in the world, let alone the 275 loop, where we have probably 50 to 100 breweries within an hour and a half's drive. So that's where that's the advice that I try to take is, if you lose if you say you lose. Like, there's no circus Olympics, there's no scoreboard in the circus, there's no soon as somebody can juggle 9 balls, someone could do So soon as somebody can juggle 9 balls, someone could do 10. So like it's a mindset. And I've been longer in the circus world than I've been out of the circus world. So that's what I can offer.
That's amazing. This has been a really great conversation, Paul. We have learned so many hilarious phrases that I cannot wait to use myself. I wanted to thank you for joining us today. What are some ways that our listeners can either invest with your company or follow you on social media?
Bircus Beer on the Instagram, Bircus Brewing Company on Facebook, Bircus.com. Our platform on Mainvest, we've got about 3 weeks to go, and people haven't invested yet. I mean, I'm trying to go, and I'm really grateful for this platform because I've kind of exhausted my friends and family around. You know, like I have 300 people that have invested, and they've invested from $125 to $125,000. Okay, so there's a wide stretch of people, but I'm also like open sourcing this. Okay, you know, like I don't have a trademark on Bircus because it was not my idea. I have a 1-page licensing agreement that says you can use the idea as long as you bring our Belgian circus troupe to America someday, and if you trademark it, you give us credit. So that's an easy thing to sign. So like that's really where I am reaching out globally and around the United States or around the world. Is like every town has an empty movie theater, and they have a bunch of little derelict kids who aren't doing a lot. So I would just say I'm still a derelict kid, but I speak derelict pretty well, so we can get things accomplished. And I helped start a circus brewery in Kenya. I helped start a circus in Kenya in 2012. It's a place called Kibera, which is the largest slum in Africa. And 3 years in, my German partners, they went there and they took 6 young people from Kenya on their first airplane ride, and they went to Stuttgart to do circus for 6 weeks. And then these kids went back to Kibera, this huge slum where 1 million people have no power and no water. And that's where I'm really working to build Bircus Kenya or Bircus East Africa. Like I have people in Uganda looking for work, people in Kenya looking for work. And it's fun, like tongue in cheek completely. We're going to see what's more corrupt, Kenya or Kentucky, right? Like, we don't know. Like, we don't know. Like, we think we know. We think that we are Americans and we are above everything. Don't tread on me is our bumper sticker until you want to tread on me, okay? So, like, that's the thing, because say you're an investor in the Bircus Brewing Company now. We are going to own 1/3 of Bircus Kibera in Kenya. Then you might not get a huge check return right now, but you can take a safari in Africa and you could write it off because you're checking out your investment. All right. So there's a lot of ways to make some things work. So we're going to Kenya. I was in Colombia earlier, about a year ago. I was in Colombia meeting with a guy who makes beer out of quinoa, because like that's the most important thing. Like we have to find local grains.
Yeah, you gotta stay healthy too.
So yeah, well, Don Vicente, like he makes beer out of quinoa, and he's such a cool dude. So we threw a big circus at a bar in Bogota, and I hired kids from the street who you see on Instagram who can like walk the tight wire or unicycle at the stoplight. We hired some of those people, and I had a hula hooper from Australia. I had a they-them wire walker there. I mean, so like I said, the circus there's room for everybody under the big top.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, Paul Miller, thank you so much for joining this episode of the Brewery Explorers Podcast. We've really enjoyed ourselves.
Cheers. One for all.
If you enjoyed this show, please share it with your drinking buddies. The Brewery Explorers is hosted by Eric Burgasser, Blake Longfellow, and me, Noah Jones. Our video is edited by Eric Burgasser. I also produce this podcast. We have social media, and we'd love to connect with you. You can find us at Brewery Explorers on Instagram and Facebook. Type in www.breweryexplorers.com to visit our website. The Brewery Explorers Podcast is part of the NoJo Creative podcast family. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.